Honorable Minister, what happened in Oregon is beautiful. We love it, and I'm glad you said we want to take the momentum into the Commonwealth Games. How can this impact towards the development of athletics back home, particularly having programs that will give us more talents?
Well, apart from finding young, talented sportsmen and women, grooming them from the grassroots and grooming them over time, one of the other bane of sports development is limited funding. Funding is critical. Funding for the infrastructure they need, funding for the technical crew, the coaches, funding for the athletes. They need grants for school. It's really important. Look at some of our athletes, if not the fact that they have scholarship and grants studying in America and they can compete in the circuit there, we will not get the kind of production we're getting from them. I think that we want to also domesticate that. Create some kind of grant, scholarship for our talents who are studying in Nigerian universities and academic institutions, since not all of them, only about 8% can really make it out there in the US. But then we can create the same kind of opportunities and conditions for them back home. And I think that's the one big lesson we've learned, to find a way in which we can create that kind of grant, that kind of scholarship, but also work with the NOC to expand the number of our athletes that really enjoy this Olympic Solidarity Scholarship and ANOCA Scholarship. It's just 14 right now. We want to see if we can get 50 of them, because we really see that they excel very well. For us, there's a glimmer of hope. The National Sports Industry Policy, which will soon be presented to the Council, has looked into all of these aspects. Of course, with the 3 triggers of infrastructure, investment, and incentive. And the incentive is important. Incentives for our athletes, investment in our athletes, investment in infrastructure. And I hope that once this is approved, we can get the private sector participation that is critical to whatever we want to do.
Honorable Minister, there were some slacks at the World Championships in Oregon, particularly administratively, and our athletes got ready for it. What is your ministry doing to ensure that we don't have this sort of setbacks anymore?
Well, interestingly, if you're speaking about 1 or 2 athletes that were not happy, they were not able to compete, I don't think it was a slack. I think it was just basically us applying our zero tolerance. Recall 1 year ago we were at the Olympics, and 9 of our athletes were disqualified from competing because they took their last test late. Now, we left that with that bitter experience, with a promise that we're going to recalibrate, we're going to introduce a zero tolerance, such that 2 weeks to any major competition, if you have not completed your 3 OCTs, you will not enter. Now, one of them switched allegiance 2 weeks before the competition. You need a span of 6 to 9 months to meet the testing regulation. We're watching the facts. The integrity unit is watching us closely. Nigeria is in the A category. You make the slightest mistake, you're in trouble. So we have to walk the fine line, and that's my responsibility. That's my responsibility, no sentiment at all. The other person, somehow, the whereabouts form or information was incomplete. So when I checked and they said, 2 days to the competition, they will rush their 3rd test. I said, no, apply the rule. It's too late. And that's what happened. Of course, when it comes to this testing, everybody has a responsibility. The athlete, the AFN itself, and of course the ministry's job is policy. Apply the policy without any discrimination. And that's what we did. What's important then is that 3 days after that, I don't know whether it's connected or not, the integrity unit, very much dreaded, issued a statement, extensive statement, commending the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the Nigerian government for its success in turning around its anti-doping history. We moved from 27 tests last year to 155 this year. They also noticed that we just made sure that anybody that has not done the OCT test is never presented, because they will just wait for you. The rules are there, 15. They wait for you. The moment you cross that line, they come back to you. So, we think it's important. When you look at what has happened of recent, you look at our history of substance abuse. You look at the most unfortunate one of Blessing Okagbare, a star athlete who for 12 years or so has worked really hard, almost hitting the zenith. We just felt we don't want any Nigerian athlete to fall into that trap. We've done a lot of awareness courses, but we must apply the rules as given by the World Athletics and the Integrity Unit, and that's what we've done.
What can we do to discover more Ese Brumes and Toby Amusan?
Grassroots, talent hunt. There's no substitute for it. In every sport, you look at basketball in America, you hear the stories of some of the greats, the late Kobe Bryant, the current Akeem Olajuwon. You look at the story of some of the best players now. They tell you their story, how they started. They were discovered from the backwaters of their society. I'm not saying talents don't also come in the urban center, but that early discovery is important. That's one. And then development of the individual and development of the sport must go hand in hand. And then you create an incubator process that places them on a program. And that's where the federations come in. You find them, the program that trains them, and then you make sure they attend as many competitions as possible. That's what sharpens their skills. You don't keep them in camp. In camp, it becomes a drudgery. But when you place them in competition, they said iron sharpened iron. And that's when you get best of them. One of our core mandates as a ministry is grassroots development. We introduced the talent hunt program. When people look at it, people think it's a joke. We have 7 young people there. We have the 8-year-old, 9-year-old boxer, Shekinat. We have the young boy who is, he calls himself the Fish. Just this year, he's won like 6 different international medals. We have another boxer. We have the Yakubu sisters. I can go on and on. And we've placed them on support, which is a flat support. They have international events. We try to chip in money for their tickets until the federation can take them on fully. So that program is fully developed. We just need enough funding to go with it so that they can go for competitions on the continent and also outside the continent.
Let's come back to the Commonwealth Games. For a country as Nigeria, with our population and our blessed, shouldn't we be competing in more than 9 sports?
Austin, it boils down to what has happened in the last 10 or 20 years. You see, there's a difference between when you simply throw money or fund international competitions. When there's a World Cup, you release money. Then it dries up. I call it episodic funding of sports. That is not sports development. When there's All Africa Games, we release money. After the games, we sit back. We expect some magic to happen. Now, you must sustain the funding of sports, irrespective of whether there's a big game coming or not. That's what we call sports development. And that's the effort we have been making, to change that mentality, to say, oh, we must always win, we must compete in all the sports. It is an investment. Unless we invest in our athletes, young or the elite athletes, we have to invest in them. What are these levels of investment? Invest in their education. Now, education and sports is almost inseparable. In fact, if you have the best talent right now in America and you're not in school, you cannot play basketball. So education and sports, because there's discipline, a couple of things that it introduces. You must also invest in them in terms of giving them grants. Beyond paying their school fees, scholarships they need, they also need money for a few things. They need money to pay their coaches, they need money for the good nutrition. They also need a bit of income that they can, because if you're an athlete, you want to practice 4 days a month or in a week, but you have a day job, you have a 9-to-5 job, and you have to survive. You prefer to go to your 9-to-5 job. You end up practicing for 1 day because nothing comes from your practice. Then you wait until 2 months or a month to a massive competition, and you want to just rush it and go there. Now you have somebody in Kenya, you have somebody in the UK, in Bahrain, who trains 4 times a week, has the time, gets the support he needs. By the time you get to the competition, he has had about 350, 400 hours of training, you've only had about 60 hours of training. So when you see what the output we get from our athletes, even though they're few, you must really commend them because they've not enjoyed the kind of opportunities that others have. I think that we've made an effort to change that narrative. Sports has been funded as a service, which has been turned into business. The moment we have that business model take place, basically, that's it. Being an athlete is a full-time job. You don't need to combine any job with it. That's it. You should get paid for it, for training consistently when nobody is looking, and then people respect you for it. That's what's been done in other countries. The result cannot be different for us. And I think that once we get that right, we'll be able to compete in more than 10 sports. Because when you are in a particular sport, and your country is 250 in the ranking in the world, I can't bring somebody who is 250 in a particular sport to the Commonwealth. What do I intend for him to achieve? He's not going to win. That's not going to happen. Most of the sports we came in were between the 1st, the 25th, or the 45th or 50th. So that sounds really right. But then if we have this development and we fall within the rank of the 1 to 100 in the world, we'll do that. We'll take that chance.
Let's wrap this up with what we can do as a country to ensure that welfare is no longer a problem. Because almost every competition, you get athletes who complain about they didn't take care of us, and then now we're winning and the country is jumping at it. What can we do? What monitoring process can we put in place to ensure that we take care?
Well, I think that sometimes it's important that Nigerians and the media does not take all of this face value. It's important that you do proper investigation. I just told you right now that 14 of our athletes in the last 3 years or 4 years have been on scholarship processed by the government through the NOC. As we speak, some of them are on $1,000 monthly pay. They enjoy scholarship.
Who are those athletes?
The facts are there. Issa Brume, Toby Amusa, and a couple of others. NOC, the documents are there. And this is continuing. That's important. It's an investment. It's been going on, and they will enjoy this until the Olympics 2024. That's one aspect of it. But also, when it comes to these competitions, like I said, our budget is limited. We have to apply for a presidential intervention fund to say we're going for X competition. There's a difference, there's a gap between approval and cash backing. We cannot really move as fast as we can. And then when smack in the middle of a competition, you get people saying we want our allowances increased. Government doesn't work that way. If you want your allowances increased, you make that presentation much earlier. I will put it in my budget. Everything is budgeted for, and we have to spread it across federations beyond coming to competitions. So I think there's also this feeling that government has so much money, and the moment you say you want an increment, you get it automatically. No, there's a process. You know the way it is. I can't spend beyond what I have in the budget. I won't even get the release of the money. So we've tried to raise our budget every year, but we operate under an envelope. That is, you have a cap. You can't go beyond that cap. We know how much you requested for the Commonwealth. We know how much we got. And we have to sit down and manage the resources we have to make the country look good. But without any doubt, I think that our athletes deserve increased allowances. And that's a conversation we can have. It doesn't have to become a case of protest. It's a conversation that's constantly on. The workers of our country want more money. The civil servants want more money. Even in private sector, people want to be paid more. And then a conversation happens. And that's what I want to see. It's not this question of wanting to say, oh, we've not been taken care of. Let me tell you, we've kept people on the Team Nigeria for so long. We move them around. We pay for their tickets. We lodge them. We keep them. Is not government doing that? That's some level of investment. So allowances is not only that. When we get you to point A, point B, point C, that's one point of investment. When we kit you That's one point of investment. When we do the documentation that's necessary, we get you the visas. That's one point of investment. When we hold the national trials, we hold the classics, we hold the national sports festival, that's another point of investment. So there are multiple points of investment. But when it comes to allowances, that's what everybody focuses on. Absolutely. But it's good to always have a healthy conversation. Let's have that conversation. You don't wait until you're smack in the middle of whatever and you think, oh, this is the time to hold the government to the truth. It's not going to work, because eventually I will have to go back, look at my budget, find a way but unless we have that conversation, oh, this is what we're getting now, this is what we expect to get, and then we'll find a way to meet each other. Yeah. That's the way it's done everywhere in the world, and it's not going to be different for us.
HM, I like that you mentioned kids. Who are you holding responsible? Someone misspelled Nigeria's name at the World Championship.
See, simple. Like I said, it's a decision you have to make. It's an eye that was missing on a single jersey. This time around, we got Nike, a foremost kid producer in the world. In a factory line, you get products that don't meet whatever it's done 100%. So that mistake was made by Nike. Perhaps somebody should have found it out and pulled it out. But that's just one single jersey, a single one. And I look at what's going on. I said, well, I think I'm going to concentrate on the gold medal, the silver, and the performance we had. I think that's more important, because it's been explained. We went to Nike, the best whatever kit maker, in their production line, and I was missing just a single jersey, one single one.
So we should hold Nike responsible. Also, someone in the ministry that didn't look at that.
The ministry is not responsible for the kids.
Someone gave the athletes the kids.
The federation, I've said it repeatedly, when it comes to the gear and the equipment any federation uses, is the federation that is responsible. Because what the athletes use is different from what the boxers use. So what the ministry does is really just simply release the money. And then that's where there's a board. People think the ministry does everything. No.
So what did the AFN say to you? What explained?
The AFN they issued a release. There was a statement that explained what happened, saying that, mistakes like this happen. It was only one single jersey that they made that mistake. They checked everything, that perhaps if somebody had noticed, it was just a simple effort of pulling that out and correcting it. And like I say, in every factory line, in the car factory line, in shoemaking, mistakes are made on one or two pairs. You just need somebody to pull it out. Sometimes cars are produced and manufacturers call back your cars after 2 years because they notice a default. It happens. It's a production line. And you know Nike, you know how many jerseys they're producing globally for teams and for merchandise and the rest of them. Of course, I felt really bad about it. I felt really bad. But I also think that we shouldn't make a mountain out of a molehill. At the same time that was happening, this country was producing a world champion, was breaking records. Which will you choose? The controversy over an eye that's missing, or celebrate the gold medal, the world champion that we produced? Which is more important at that point? Mistake was made. That is corrected. We'll move forward from there.
With the way we've prepared, what are your expectations for this Commonwealth Games?
My expectations are great, bearing any injuries. I said it on the radio program. I said, the Bible says, I haven't done everything. Stand still and assured. That's my position. The players have done their best. They've logged in several hours of efforts, sacrifice, off the radar. And I think that their reward comes from getting this opportunity at the Commonwealth, getting this platform to be able to exhibit and make podium performance. I hope and I pray that when the time comes and they get on the track, on the field, wherever, these ones will be fired up to give their very best.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.